So I'll introduce myself and my assistant here, and then kind of give you a little background about me. My name is Harvey Colwell. I'm the Special Ed Director for Perry County. This is starting my 16th year as Special Ed Director. I'm also the Safe Schools Coordinator and Textbook Coordinator and a bunch of other stuff. So I've been in the district 28 years. This is Lola Taylor. She's kind of my assistant, and she's a consultant. And 25?
Yeah, well, I'm 26 years.
Starts 26. She's been with me at the office for about 5?
Going on 5 years.
Yeah. So that's just kind of a little bit of background about us as far as who we are. The next thing is I want to give you a little bit of background about our district as far as special ed numbers and things like that. So we roughly run on an average year about 840 special ed kids in the district in our program. We have 10 units, 7 MSD teachers. We run about 65 teachers and about 65 special ed aides in the district. So that's not counting, we have 2 alternative programs that I'm over. One's the high school and one's K-8, and then so that's kind of where we're at as far as numbers. Our numbers can fluctuate a little bit up and down based on, you know, from year to year as far as child count, but that's kind of where we're at and what we have as far as our numbers go. So districts in here, so we have Knott is here, right?
Yes.
We have Floyd,
Yes.
Letcher. Anybody from Letcher? Okay, they're in the library. So everybody's Knott, Floyd, and is that it? Knott, Floyd? Okay. So I know both your directors really well. We often talk. Directors kind of have this close-knit, it's a close-knit group. Anyway, so what they asked us to talk about was the role, I guess, of the paraeducator. And when I talk to you about a role of paraeducator, I'm not saying it's the foundation or the concrete, it's in concrete. This is my idea for our paraeducators in our district and what I expect of them, okay? So, you know, here's some things that we come up with, you know, performing duties in a variety of, we have several one-on-one, I call them aides still, old school aides, in our district, okay? We have roughly 75 autistic kids in our district. My first year as director, 16 years ago, I had 5. So, again, we have one-on-one based on need. Of course, that's an ARC decision with the additional adult supervision. We have alternative program, elementary and high school, and then we do not call our units, FMD units, we call our units alternate curriculum resource rooms. We try to take the word unit out of there. It's got a bad connotation with the parents. And so we try to do away with that word. Now, when I talk to teachers, I use that word because that's what they understand, and staff, but when it comes to parents, we try to use the curriculum resource. Again, we have about 65 total assistants within our program, and I try to tell principals to limit the special ed assistants doing regular ed assistant jobs. And what I mean by that is it's important based on how you're paid, and some of our aides are paid out of IWB federal funding, where other aides are paid maybe out of general fund. And if that's the case, then that's why I tell our principals and our administrators to watch that. Now, do I understand if we have a day where we're shorthanded, there's 20 teachers out, you've got 5 aides out, some kind of sickness is wiping your school out, do we have to step up and do what we got to do to make it through the day? I understand that.
Yeah.
but I don't want that to be a regular, everyday occurrence. Attendance is extremely important because what happens is if we've had a kid who's got a assistant who directly works with them and they are out, then we are in violation of the IEP not being implemented because that's part of the IEP. So if the student IEP says that the child has additional adult supervision and that person's not there and we can't get somebody to sub that, then we are in violation of not providing FAPE because that person's not there that day. So it kind of puts us in a bind. So that's why I tell classified, just like I do certified, every day that you miss is a day you can't get back. I tell teachers that all the time. Every day you miss is a day the kids have lost and you can't get that back. Because a sub is not like a regular teacher. Every day an assistant misses is a lost day. You can't get it back. So the other thing is, you only have a number of days that you can miss anyway. And then you get up and then you start getting your pay cut. That's what I tell ours. I don't understand some of ours that miss some and then their pay's being cut. I was like, what are you working for? You know, the one thing that we've done here lately is our board has been gracious enough to give our special ed classified assistants $2 raise. I don't know what else we can do to make it to where people want to come to work. You know, I'm old school. I'm old school. My dad taught me, my parents taught me that when you come to work, you get there 30 minutes early.
Exactly.
And you work every day. And I've had days where they've had to make me go home because I was sick. And Lola can tell you that. And so you don't miss work. That's just the way I was brought up. These days and times, it's not that way. And so we got to try to get the younger generation who's coming in to start filling vacancies and things like that to understand that attendance at work is important. Because the kids that you work with, again, lose a day. So that's what we try to reiterate to our staff. Another thing that's really important is confidentiality. You know, I tell our classified, there should be no discussions of that kind of information outside the school setting. And I'm talking about like when you run into someone at Walmart or Food City or wherever you're at, and you run into John Doe's parents, and then you're saying, you won't believe what's going on with so-and-so. You can't be doing that. If that gets back, that is a violation of that child's right, and that is a violation of confidentiality. So you got to be careful with that. I tell teachers and I tell our assistants, less is more. Sometimes it's just best not to say nothing. And sometimes I'm sure we all have opinions about things, and Lord knows I do. But sometimes you just got to keep your opinion to yourself. You know what I mean? That's what I try to reiterate to our staff, and I think Lola will vouch for that. That I'm always telling our staff, you know, even in special ed meetings, you know, you as a paraeducator could be a part of a special of an ARC meeting, especially if you're working in a one-on-one case with a student. And I tell our teachers and our paraeducators in meetings that a lot of times less is more. Okay? And so they're like, what are you talking about is, you know, sometimes you just gotta be quiet and listen. That's what a lot of times parents want you to do when you're in those situations, is listen. And sometimes we don't do enough of that. We wanna make sure that we're the ones that are doing all the talking, and that's not necessarily the best way to handle those situations. The other thing I tell them is, if you've got time to gossip, then you need more work to do. Okay? So that's one of the things, Lola and I always agree on this, is that If there's a lot of gossiping going on, then somebody doesn't have enough to do. So that tells me that maybe the ball's being dropped and that there is not all the fulfillment of the job responsibilities and duties are not being fulfilled. So that's what I tell our staff is, if I get a report, well, I call them and say, so-and-so said you're doing a lot of gossiping. And I'll talk to them, and Lolo can tell you, I'll be straightforward. I have no problem doing that. I'll be good to you, but I also will be straightforward with you. And I'll tell them, if you've got time to gossip, then somebody's job slacking, okay?
Then the child's missing out.
Yes, I agree. So that's what we tell theirs. I tell them that their job is to assist the student, not to complete whole tasks for them. And so it's called an assistant. That doesn't mean that you, as an assistant, are doing, if Johnny's trying to do his math problems and you sit there and do the math problems for him. That's not what that means. You assist them based on what they need. And so it's hard to get paraeducators to understand that it's not about doing the work for the child. It's about assisting with what they need to complete the work, if that makes sense. So that's the other thing I tell them. Did you talk there?
Yeah, it's just a collar.
So next, okay, what are the roles and characteristics? Go on. Okay, right here's some things that we came up with that this is from our list. So this is what Lola and I go over with our paraeducators and what we expect them to do as far as complete assignments given by, here's what I tell them. If you're working in a unit setting, or we call them, again, alternative resource curriculum classroom, the teacher's the boss. They're the certified personnel in that classroom. We always tell them that they have control, so they are doing what the teacher is asking them to do, okay? I don't want it to come across like the teacher's doing it, so you better do this, or it's more what the teacher needs them to do. So we ask them to meet the deadlines when they exist, because that's a problem with some people, is there may be a deadline set, and
Even like submitting your time or
Yes.
just stuff like that you need to do for payroll, that's part of deadlines, that's part of your job as well. So, some staff sometimes are slacking with, submitting their time for payroll, we have to remind them, all that plays a role in what you have to do.
And
daily.
there's, some staff are like, well, why do I have to do that? Because that's the way it's done. We have ASOP in our district. If you don't go in and clock in and out, you're not getting paid. Okay, we have staff too, or paraeducators that assist with medical issues. And if we have staff that need additional training on that, then we of course pay them to do that. And they do get additional training. So you may have kids with physical ailments and disabilities that may require additional medical services. And so our assistants understand that if they're working with those, they have to get some additional training, then we pay them to do that. And so we will also tell our staff to make sure if they're in use of equipment and supplies that they take care of that. That's their responsibility, to treat that as you would treat your own at your house. Follow chain of command. We have some staff sometimes that has a problem with this. It's probably not good policy for me to get a phone call and you've not talked to your principal or your teacher about the issue. Because the first thing I'm going to say is, have you talked to the teacher? Have you talked to the principal? Because it's going to have to go back there anyway. In the end, I'm not the principal. And the way we work together in our district is, I don't tell a principal what to do or not to do. I advise the principal on what to do to stay legal.
Because we look at it, administrators are there every single day. and that is their building, you know. And
Yeah.
the way they do their operations and their duties of their staff is best interest of their building. And we're not there every day. We're at central office. We travel to schools, but we're not there every day.
Well,
So we give guidance, and then in the end, the administrators takes that guidance and can deliver what they want to.
So I always tell the classified staff is I'm never going to deal with an issue that at a school and a principal not know about it. I was a principal, okay? I was there, I know. As a principal, I have a right to know everything's going on in my building. And the first thing I'm gonna do if the assistants call me with an issue and they've not talked to them is I'm gonna call the principal. And I make no ifs, ands, or buts about that because they are in control of that. That's what I mean by following chain of command. And you know, back in the day, when I came into the business, I didn't even talk to anybody at central office. I was afraid. You back in the day when I first became a teacher, you didn't talk to people at central office. Now it's like anybody doesn't care, they just call. And back in the day, that didn't happen. My first year as teacher in this district, I didn't talk to the special ed director. Not one time. You didn't. You didn't call. If you had a problem, you talked to the principal. And that's where it stopped. And so I know those days have kind of gone by the wayside, but we try to reiterate that the chain of command is still important. It means a lot. Daily schedule, we usually try to have our classroom teachers to make sure that assistants have a daily schedule so they know what they're doing throughout the day, and that's been covered with them. And then we like to have staff who value the value of teamwork because it's not about me, it's about we. So we try to reiterate that. Complete and thorough in paperwork, that's what Lola was talking about. And then punctual and regular in attendance and with giving notification. That's the other thing too. Sometimes we have had staff who have not showed up for work and then the principal's not been called, nobody knows why they've missed. That's not good. That leaves a bad taste in my mouth. Yeah, so I don't like that. Operates within our policy guidelines and deals tactfully with coworkers. We try to avoid, getting into arguments with staff, other staff. That's not good. We don't like that. We want somebody dependable and approaches assignments in a positive manner. And controlling student behavior effectively. In other words, not letting the kids do what they want to do all the time. I know it's tough. I understand it. The kids that we're dealing with now is totally different than the kids we were dealing with before the pandemic or before the floods. So I understand that. It's tough. Listens to and accepts instructions. Look, we all have a boss. I have a boss. You know, my dad raised me that you do what your boss says. You may not agree with everything your boss tells you, but if you've got a job and you want to continue to work, you do what your boss tells you to do. Because anything you do at life, you're going to have a boss. Unless you own your own business. And then if you're married, your wife's going to be your boss.
Not necessarily.
Does routine work without instructions? In other words, if I tell our staff, if we have a teacher who gets sick and has to miss, and I have some classified staff, I call them, or assistants, that I can say they could be the teacher in that classroom because if the teacher misses, they continue with the routine and they know exactly what to do, when to do it, and how to do it, and it just runs like clockwork.
So let me ask you a question on that. The teacher that we had thought that she could not even step out to go to the bathroom with 6 aides in the room unless there was a certified teacher.
If our teacher needs to go to the bathroom and we've got 6 aides in there, they can go to the bathroom.
Exactly.
So it's not, we have to be watched by
No.
certified 25.
I mean, and I'm not gonna sit there and tell staff they can't go to the bathroom if they need to go. I mean, come on, we gotta think logically on that stuff. Yeah, I mean, it don't take a rocket scientist to figure.
She really thought she would have to get a certified, and she retired this year, she'd been there 110 years.
Well, I mean, you know, more power to her. She probably, if she'd been 110, she should have went about 50 years ago. But no, I get it. For our classes that have multiple aides in there, we don't have a problem with them stepping out and using the restroom. I wouldn't say nothing about that.
And what about when they go out to the gym? Is the paraeducators allowed to take them to the gym alone without?
We've had paraeducators get them to the gym, but I also would want to make sure that the teacher would be there if you're doing a classroom setting there. You know what I'm
It's
saying?
just for, you know,
Just playtime.
Yeah. Now, we have paraeducators that walk kids, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah,
We do.
But, you know, they're certified that, you know, if it's
They're
gonna be there
around.
for a long period of time or, you know, extended.
Our certifieds there, they're around. So it's not like, you know, they're just gonna say, hey, walk them and then them disappear. That's
well,
not the
like the
way.
teacher feels, you know, something can happen and she'd be in trouble.
Yeah.
A lot of our teachers though will go with them when they walk because that's just,
Yeah.
they know it's their job.
right.
We don't have to deal with that a whole lot.
No, and then we do have some, you know, students that transition to classes and, you know, the aide will walk them to their
Yeah.
classroom and
So,
stay in there sometimes.
So the
Yeah.
teacher can't be
You know.
everywhere.
Because
So
the teacher
we-
has to be in the
we
classroom,
have-
you know,
We
obviously. so.
have the trust with our classified staff that they will make sure that the kid gets to and from where they need to go safely. So we do. So, no, our teachers don't have to go everywhere. If that makes, did that answer your question?
It does, because I feel like if you've got 6 adults and they can't watch them kids, they
Something wrong.
send them
Something
home.
wrong,
Find
yeah.
somebody else.
We have in our alternative school, in our elementary, we have 2 teachers and 1 aide in there. And my sentiments, even if one of those teachers is out, I always tell Lola, if we've got 2 or 3 kids in there, if we've got 2 adults in there and they can't watch 3 kids, we've got an issue. You know, I mean,
Yeah.
so I say it to Lola. Confidentiality is a must. I put that in big letters. It is. Okay, it's a must. All right. And then educational talk with parents, you leave that to the teacher. We have some aides that will get overzealous and they'll want to inform a parent of something and then it causes an issue. And the first thing I say is that, why didn't the teacher do that? And then the aide's going, that's the teacher's job. Everybody I tell teachers this too, know your role. Stay in your lane. And I tell teachers when they want to go over principal's head, stay in your lane. Principal's boss. Sometimes staff don't like to hear that, but that's the truth. So that's what I mean by that is. All right, so next is focus, working as a team. We always tell them that working as a team is the most important thing to best serve our students. And then common team, the most important thing is servicing the students. That's the most important thing. At the end of the day, it's not about whether you're happy, whether I'm happy, whether the teacher's happy. It's about, is the student getting serviced as they should. So that's what I tell her. Some qualities of a good team, I wanted to go over these just real quick, is good communication, trust. You gotta have trust. It's gonna be hard. It's gonna be hard if you don't have trust. A valued membership, respect, flexibility, common goals, sense of humor, non-judgmental, and then listens. So that's just some of the qualities of a good team. Is that it? Okay, defining roles, knowing what's your job and what's not your job. Okay? That's the thing. Remember I said stay in your lane, knowing your role, that's the same thing. You know, hey, did you know that she's not doing her job? you know, start talking to other staff. I'm just using that as an example, okay? She looked at me like,
She was like, wait a minute here.
Probably right.
so I'm over here talking, me and her or your colleague, and she's just lazy. I don't know. You know, that's how things like that get started, okay? So that is not her job.
I don't know which one you freaked out the most, her or her. But anyway.
It's not my job. It's not your job if somebody's not doing their job. That in turn goes into the teacher, to principal. There's people there for that. They have those titles. That's what we tell our staff. You're not the boss. You're not in the boss's role. And so, again, that goes, these two go hand in hand. What's not my job? And then, whose job is it? Okay? So, and here's the thing about that. That irks me. Whose job is it? Because Lola can tell you, since she's got to work with me at the office, I get a lot of jobs at the office that are not my job. And guess what I do? I do them. Okay? I can't stand that. Well, that's not my job. I'm not doing that. No, I don't like that attitude. I don't like that at all. It's everybody's job. If somebody's absent, somebody's sick, somebody's got to step in and pick up. And so next man up is that's my thing. Next man up. The teacher's role, again, this is just some things that we listed. I don't think these, we wanted to put them in there so you would know. And if you want a copy of this PowerPoint, I'll be more than glad to email that to you. You can email me, and I'll leave you my email address here at the end. And then I'll get this PowerPoint to you. I'm not gonna go into all of those, but we put these in
That's
here.
just an overview. I mean, of course, the teacher has tons of roles, just
Right.
like we do, you do. But at the end of the day, these are just an overview of the basic things that they need to do daily.
Can I leave my email and just email it to you?
Yeah, we might can write on the board here his email address and
I
might
got some
have a
help from
picture
him.
of it or something, so I'll try to do that here in a minute, that way you all have it.
All right, what are some questions? Yeah, we've got some more there. I'm not gonna go, into the rest of that. I just want to see if there's any questions. Because we could talk all day about the rest of this. The one thing I will say is, we tell staff, if you're working with a kid one-on-one, make sure you're with that kid. Don't be in the lounge drinking coffee and somebody left all alone and then something happened and then they say, well, where was so-and-so? Ain't they supposed to be working with this kid? And then now we've got issues to deal with. Don't do the work for the student. Again, this one's a tough one because I just did it. I was on my phone, but I had an important text that I saw. Limit your phone access during your work time because, again, and I understand it, this was one of the best things ever created, but it was one of the worst things that was ever created. There's days I wish I could take this and throw it in that river over there.
Me too.
Because there's days where that thing just never, it won't stop, it won't shut up. But try to limit that as much as you can, is what I tell our staff. Now, I know there's emergencies and stuff gonna pop up, and I understand that. And I understand that these days and times, everybody's gotta have this.
I just think that the worst thing that ever happened was the fact that we do not, in eastern Kentucky, have balls to tell the kids they cannot have their phones in the classroom.
Yeah, well, it's funny you mention that because I saw on the news, I think it was yesterday, that a school in Alabama is doing away with hoodies, Crocs, a bunch of other clothing.
We can order those online.
And some things like that, and I thought, well, that's a bold move
It is.
these days and times, but
And
you're
what high
right.
school are you at?
I went to Massachusetts, but
Oh,
no, I work in
Massachusetts.
Floyd County.
Oh, okay. But at Massachusetts, you couldn't wear those.
Yeah, there was like no
Yeah.
no Crocs because you could like slip and stuff, and like no hoodies
Now,
because
my son, they made an exception with him to wearing hoodies because he was very self-confident. He was a little guy, he had alopecia, he had no hair,
Yeah.
and he used to.
Well, I mean, there's always gonna be some situations
Yeah.
where there could be exceptions, but, I do agree with you that it's like kids can't function if they don't have this in their hand. And, I turned out pretty good, and I never had a phone when I was young. I think, I'm not. I'm bald and fat, but otherwise I turned out great. And I never had one of these till I got up, up and, I don't even know, my first year of teaching, I don't even know if these were even.
No, they had the bag phones at one point.
I had the bag phone. That tells you, so it amazes me that kids can't function. And just to give you an example, my two grandkids, they'll be coming down to the house visiting, and I'll be looking, and one's on my phone and the other one's on my wife's phone. So I don't, TikTok
And when we
is-
started teaching, we didn't even have computers to type our IEPs or nothing on. We had to use paper, so,
Oh my
yeah.
God, I remember computers with little floppy disks.
Yes.
So, give me some questions. Go ahead.
What's some advice you have for a paraeducator who might be assigned one-on-one to a child, but due to staff restraints is tasked with running let's say a small group learning style, learning
Well,
situation with multiple kids?
the first thing I would say on that is, and I tell parents and assistants and principals and teachers alike, an assistant can work with multiple kids, all right? First and foremost. Now, our parents get in their head that they've got to have that one-on-one, but if the schedules work creatively, you can have it to where an aide, you may have multiple kids needing assistance, but one aide can service all of the kids within the same setting. So that's the one thing is you kind of got to be creative. My advice is that if it's in the same grade level, then that kid becomes a part of that group, and then you work with multiple. You work
Is
with
the
those
kid in the
kids.
same grade level as your?
Yes, they're
Small
all at
group.
the same small table. I just
Yeah.
didn't know where it says in his IEP one-on-one, because I do have to leave sometimes.
As long as he's there and he's getting service from you, I think you would be covered.
And then if you're gone, someone else is providing that one-on-one, then you would be covered.
Okay.
So what do you do if you have children that can't function without a device and they're required to do actual work?
On the device?
Yes.
Such as what device?
Like either a phone or a ViewSonic board?
Then the first thing that we do is, the first thing that we require to do is, we have an ARC meeting, and we do a technology assessment to determine what technology is needed for that kid, okay? And then once it's determined, then the second thing we do is, and everybody agrees that that device is needed, then we look at whether we can build Medicaid services for that to determine where we're gonna pay for that from. I've never said no, and although
In the
I think
IEP, it needs to be in the
Yes.
ARC meeting and put in the IEP.
and I will
And that device
never,
will be
I will
utilized.
never,
Yep.
I've never said no to a device that the ARC has determined that is a major need for a student
So
to
if you have a
function.
student that won't do paperwork and the only way you can get them to do an actual math problem is to lay a phone beside them. Not because they wanna do it, but it's like they have to have.
Then I
paperwork.
would continue to do that.
Okay.
I don't see a problem with that. Because again, you gotta remember, special education is individualized. Call and see what's going on. It's not about the group, it's about, the IEP is individualized, so what can you do for the individual student, okay? So, if that kid has to have that phone, you may wanna make some notations in the IEP of why and what it's used for,
Because
okay?
if you take that device,
Oh, I know,
even if
we
you
got
saw-
autistic kids that can't function without certain devices, and I understand that, so. No, I mean, you don't, look, I didn't say that you do, the phone is useful if it's used the right way, okay? And so, if a kid's gotta have it, it's gotta have it. It's just gotta make sure that it's documented and that the ARC has made the decision that the kid will utilize that device and what they're utilizing it for.
But normally at school, they've got them texting each other and carrying on and, you know, causing trouble, and that shouldn't happen. That's what.
Well, they're getting younger and younger now.
Well, I was always told as administrator, you fight your battles. And as of right now, if phones are still out in your building, then you're not gonna win that battle. Or so why fight it? So then what you try to do is adjust to it. And then what can you do to minimize that? That's the key is not fighting the battle, but minimizing the use and how can I be creative to do that? So again, it goes back to us having to think outside the box, if that makes sense. Any other questions? Because still got a few minutes.
Let me ask you one that don't pertain to me.
That's
I'm in high
good.
school level, but
Yeah.
we're working in an elementary school setting. I'm in a regular classroom with a child. This child in a lower elementary room gets to keep an iPad all day. But his buddy sitting next to him has to write it out. How do you explain to Buddy what his special needs he gets to keep? I mean, what would you do in that situation?
Well, the first thing I would say is, you talking about explaining it to the kid or the parents of the kid?
No, the other kids in the room.
They want one.
They want to, it's not fair if Johnny has an iPad and I don't. Why does Johnny get an iPad?
You gotta be
and I
careful
don't?
with that,
Right.
because confidentiality, you can't say a whole lot, especially to other kids.
Especially if they go home with mom and dad and they start complaining and mom says, well, why can't Johnny have a tablet or something and my child can't?
I would be very selective in what I said, especially to those students, in that, that's a tough one, because they see it as okay for him, but not for
I
them.
would just.
Yeah.
But, my thing is, my question to you is gonna be, aren't kids utilizing more technology through Chromebooks and stuff in the classroom anyway than they used to?
Some are, but I have worked, with the lower elementary, and the little fella I was with was in first grade. It
Because-
was like they were talking, had to have the iPad.
Because if you think about our district, most of our students understand, in those situations. Again, you've gotta be careful. There's not a whole lot you can say, because legally you can't.
Yeah.
And so, I get it.
And even if the parent calls, there's limitations that the teacher and the principal can,
Yeah.
tell them as well, because you're dealing with confidentiality.
I would just tell the kids, look, that's part of that child's curriculum. And I would leave it at that.
That's all I would say.
And if it kept going on, I would just like, you need to talk to the teacher. And then if it gets, then they need to be principal. But I would tell them that, that's needed for that child to access curriculum and be done with it. And, I would be very limited, because you gotta worry about confidentiality in that situation. You gotta protect yourself.